Hi everyone, I'm going to provide some information through this screencast on Google Correlate. Over the last few days I've been exploring with this website and I wanted to share some information that I've found. I'm by no means an expert on the information that's provided on this website, but I just wanted to give you a few tips or basically some information that I found helpful if you're ever going to explore Google Correlate. The website for this is www.google.com/trends/correlate, and then that will bring you to the page that you see in front of you. Now, Google Correlate is very similar to Google Trends, except Google Correlate is basically the reverse process of how Google Trends works. With Google Trends, what happens is during a certain time period, you're able to see what was popular as far as searches during that time. So for a week or for a day or even a month or a year, you could see what the popular or trending searches were. With Google Correlate, it uses popular searches and other topics that correlated to those searches at the same time, and it'll give you matches that strongly corresponded or strongly compared to whatever topic you're looking for over a certain time period. So what I'll do is go through a few examples for how it works, and I'll talk about a few of the links out on the left-hand side of this page. So to start with, let's just do a search for ice fishing. You can type anything you want, but if you search for ice fishing, what's going to come up are all of the most highly correlated searches that went along with ice fishing searches. So if people search for ice fishing, other ones that were strongly related to that were Jiffy Ice, ice fishing reports, Eskimo ice, tip-ups, snowmobile rentals, and you can see them all listed there. Now, the typical user on Google might have difficulty really interpreting what all of this means. I think you have to have a little bit of knowledge on correlation and statistics. And in saying that, I think someone who really enjoys looking at data, or is a statistician, or even just really likes statistics, might find this website pretty intriguing, or just fun to go through. The numbers next to each of the correlated search outcomes represent how closely related the search is. So a number that's close to 1.0 would be like a perfect match, but the numbers close to 1, like 0.9788, 0.619, or 0.9619, 0.9606, and so on, those are the most closely related searches to ice fishing. Now you could hit show more, and it gives you about 20 search results that closely related to or were closely correlated to ice fishing. The neat thing about this is if you scroll down, you can see what time of the year those searches were popular. Now I think that this is where a lot of students might be able to make some meaning with this website. You could see here that down below along the x-axis, or this bottom axis, you have the time periods from 2004 all the way until our current month of when ice fishing was popular as a search on Google. And it also matches up the most closely correlated value as well with Jiffy Ice, that you can see right here. And so popular search time happens right at the end of the year. And then another popular search time is right at the end of the next year. And right at the end of the next year, you can kind of see this pattern happening over and over again. You could ask your students why that is, have a nice discussion about that. But just based on this example, it looks like towards the end of the year, in those colder months when there's ice out, more popular searches on Google, because that's when ice fishing is occurring. If we want to look at something that might not be as popular at a specific time period, we could do a new search. Let's just say you search for recipes or recipe. So I search recipe. The most closely correlated recipe search is sour cream and cream cheese. You can see that they all relate to maybe ingredients or something that you use along with recipe. You go down and you can see the visual is much different. Okay, and so one thing I wanted to point out on this visual is, let's say you wanted to look at a time period just between 2011 and 2014. So I'm just dragging until 2014. And now you can look at a specific time period, maybe a few years, of when those searches were popular. You could have a discussion again with your students of why maybe there was a spike at a certain time of the year, or maybe if you scroll back up, why were these the searches that were popular with recipes? So I think this would be a really great discussion tool for students, really allow them to make meaning in what they've learned about correlation. I teach high school math, and we spend quite a bit of time learning how to calculate correlation values, like this 0.9779, this 0.9733. But I think this would be pretty neat to look at why is sour cream the most closely related search with recipe? Or, why is it that some of these other ones have that high value? So great tool to maybe transfer some of the knowledge they learned in class to what people were doing on Google. All right, the next thing I want to show you is under the documentation, just have some information for the user. Their comic book is just their creative way of explaining how they came up with Google Correlate. So it's just a comic, and you could read it yourself if you want to, but it goes through quite a few pages of how they came about with Google Correlate. The next one down is informational pieces. They're frequently asked questions, and Google just provided information that represents their frequently asked questions while they were coming up with this website and when it was first introduced. Okay, they provide a tutorial. So you click on the tutorial, and they walk through different ways you could use it. I haven't gone through each of these ways yet, but I'll get to that shortly. Their white paper is just a paper explaining Google Correlate, their official paper. And then their algorithm, which we don't need to really go into at this point, but the algorithm of how they came up with their correlation values. It uses a mathematical algorithm. Okay, and under the Correlate Labs, the search by drawing feature is currently not working. But what you're supposed to be able to do is draw any curve or pattern that you would like. It could be a line, it could be any pattern, a U, it could be any sort of squiggle. When I click and draw, it doesn't work. So it's currently not working. But if it did work, what happens here is you could draw any curve, and Google would then provide you with the matches, the search history or the search correlation values that exactly match that pattern. I wish it worked, but right now there's a glitch in that part of the Google Correlate. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to show you is the enter your own data. Now this is similar to that Google drawing part, only it uses a spreadsheet, and you can type in your own data instead of drawing in your own pattern. Now there could be a lot of information that you write in. So let's say you wanted to find out some information that correlated to recipes. So I type recipe there, but now this column B starts right at the beginning of their data set for this particular website in 2004, and you have to type in correlation values. You could run your own program in an Excel spreadsheet, and so you'd have to have a little bit of background knowledge on that. But I'm just going to do a few. Let's say I went with 0.8, 0.8, and I'm just going to continue 0.8 over time if my mouse allows me to do it. Okay, and then I'm going to do 0.5. So you have to enter in numbers between 0 and 1. And this is a very basic example, and I'm not going to go through all the 8 years or so that they have. So I just typed in a few. Scroll down here. As you can see, I just went through basically 2000, not only half a year, 2004. I searched for correlations, and it's okay, I'll leave this page that I was on. And what shows are the correlated values based on the data that I entered that match up with the recipe. So here is, if you had a specific data set that you typed in, you'd have to know a little bit of background knowledge on that, or have a little background knowledge on that. If you type that in, now you can see the pattern. Now I only looked at this first part, but you could have a discussion here with your students of why enter web, spring 2014, jelly bags, prom 2004, etc. Why were those popular with recipe? Okay. This part of the Google website, or the Google Correlate website, I think is a little bit difficult to use because you really have to know what data you're entering and why you're entering it and how to enter it. I'm not really all that familiar with it, so I just wanted to show you that that option was there. Okay, if I wanted to explore a little bit more, I think I would have to really get into the tutorial and find out how to enter more specific data, so I had a better example to use with my students. Okay. But like I said earlier, I think this would be a great tool for students to use in order to make meaning to what correlation means outside of their classroom. How did Google use it? How could you make predictions for the future based on patterns that are shown? So that's my screencast on just some information on Google Correlate, and thanks for watching.